Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear myself. It's a shorter conversation, and we want to be sure to include at least one, if not two questions from the audience. So I'm going to put Rashna on the spot and ask her the hardest question, I think, for any writer. What led you to write this book in this format? And in terms of context, though, Rashna has shared two very detailed journeys in this book of childhood friends. She's calling them Amit and Rajeshwari. They're sort of being forced into an arranged marriage, which I think many people that will resonate with many people. And she talks about how you need to learn individuation. She talks about how mythology can play a huge role. You talk about Jungian archetypes. And at one point, you say that there's so much context that has to be delved into to help these two individuals really come to terms with their own reality and maybe confront their parents, their families, and stand up for themselves. These are based on real stories. Can you take us through a little bit?
Yes. Well, basically, I thought of writing this book because I have so many couples for so many years who one could be a queer and one is not. And then they're forced by their respective families to get married. And what kind of a marriage is that? Because it's so complicated. There's no eros between them. And I hear of all the backstories as a therapist. And I thought for the younger generation, it's really high time that, we bring them out of the darkness and to confront the reality of what it means to be truthful to oneself. And Joseph Campbell, who's a mythologist, wrote the most beautiful book called Hero with 1,000 Faces, where he talks mythologically about the steps that the hero needs to take in order to confront his own inner truth. And so we've taken the hero's journey into this book to show the path where you have to be truthful to yourself and get out of the parental sort of cultural ethos which we are grown up in, where we are not able to confront our inner truth. So I've taken case histories and put them together, and then I've also used Jung had separated from Freud, and in 1942, he was able to listen to a series of lectures at the Zurich University about the 7 chakras. And he was so amazed that their levels of consciousness on which he was thinking, which is this old, ancient text. So he included that, and he gave a series of lectures, and I always wanted to write a book about that. And so I used this couple to go through the 7 chakras, how they can come out of the darkness and the secrecy behind which they have to live their lives.
And what's really beautiful is also that the psychoanalyst at one point is working with these clients. She tells one of the protagonists, Amit, to be a, quote, agent of change in his own life, and especially in this context of queer love, and especially in this context of standing up to his family, standing up for himself. There's also the layer of interfaith partnerships that comes up. And this quote I thought was very powerful, where Rashna writes, "Our culture, with its inability to accept individual human needs, is the cause of your unhappiness." And in a way, when she's talking to Amit, Rashna, she gives him that leeway to question. She looks at his dreams and the archetypes, and it's fascinating how you talk to us about how the myths we grow up with show up in our dreams, and you help your clients. And of course, in this book, the psychoanalyst helps Amit and Rajeshwari work through their issues through their dreams and those mythologies.
Well, dreams are very much archetypal. That's why we look at mythology. Mythology is all about repeating patterns in different cultures. And therefore, it gives us a kind of way to show where you can come to your inner truth or you miss the way. And it's always about crossing certain thresholds in our life to go forward and to come out with the truth. Because otherwise, so many people just live in darkness all their life, like secret lives. That's not a life. What about their kids? What happens to, people who are forced to get married and they just have no erotic life together, basically. Each one has a separate life. Each one is, hiding through society. And therefore, I try to show the younger generation that you have to come out and follow your own truth. And that's called individuation, or listening to the inner voice, which is the hero's journey. And Joseph Campbell says, when you set out on the journey, you feel very alone, but the gods are with you.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I think we'll give you a round of applause after this last question from my side, which is, what would your advice be to young couples, because you see so many of them?
They have to go for it. Because, they have to listen to their own truth, to their own, because, we are not just people who are culturally embedded in our parents' stories, but we have to find our own truth, our own love. And it's the heart. When you touch the heart energy and you fall in love, it's such an important moment. My first book, also Psychology of Love, talks about these various stages of love. And I think it's very important to listen to the heart and to listen to what the inner voice is saying instead of getting culturally stunted in other people's stories.
Thank you so much. One round of applause first for Rashna, and then we'll ask. Do we have a question in the audience? There's someone back there. Anyone in front? Okay. And then one here, this young girl. There's one young girl here. You can give her a mic.
Yeah, good evening. Down the back here, ma'am. Hello. Yeah. I studied quite a bit of Jung at university, and he was big into ancient texts and symbolism, imagery. From what I can gather of Hindu iconography, it's very much the heterosexual relationships expressed through Hindu iconography, like the union of the gods. It's always male and female. But I was just wondering, like through your studies and knowledge, are there any representations of divine figures who have entered into same-sex relationships, and have they been repressed through history, or could they be something to be revived for younger generations to even worship?
Yeah, I think it's a very pertinent question you've asked, because, I'd finished my book, and by chance, I didn't know this myth of Shiva and Mohini. And I chanced upon it because it came as in a radio, which I was listening to some music. And then I researched it, and it really completed the book, because you know who Mohini is. Shiva is the great god who's meditating, and Mohini is Vishnu. It's the only female avatar of Lord Vishnu. And she becomes a woman and seduces Shiva. And, Parvati looks away. And, he had to live through that. So it really completed my story, because the whole thing of the shadow is in there, because the Samudra Manthan is there, where, you have to live through all of life in order to understand and not judge others. And it's a beautiful myth which really completed my book. I was just amazed how it came to me. So I encourage you to read that chapter 16 in the book.
There's one question for this young.
Yeah, ma'am. So my question to you is that if you have to restart your journey, like starting from the zero in this generation, so what would be the skills, habits, or things you develop and also unlearn? Because this generation is also having some of the quality which we should not have. So what would be those specifically skills and habits?
So I didn't advise, what kind of advice would you give to young girls, this young generation? I guess we're talking about skills and habits.
Well, what we do is to listen to our dreams, because dreams tell us our inner story, and you have to listen to what the dreams are going to say, because it's the inner voice that needs to come out. That's how we start. And the inner voice has always a kind of, it's not the ego, it's the inner Antaratma that's talking to you. And therefore we look at dreams and try to see what each individual is doing, because it always takes time. You can't jump to conclusions. You have to listen to what each one's inner voice is saying, and that is the guiding voice. People ask me, should I do this, should I do that? And I say, I don't know. You have to know, and I'll help you to know through your dreams, through your unconscious.
And keep a dream journal.
Yeah, to keep a dream journal.
Maybe one last question, we have a minute. Anyone?
Good evening, my name is Mrunmayee, and I have a question that whenever we read some books, तो हमें ऐसा लगता है कि ये बहुत अच्छा है और आई एम अ राइटर ऑल्सो, तो ऐसा लगता है कि इतना अच्छा हम कभी लिख पाएंगे क्या, ये एक सवाल रहता है. कभी कभी ऐसा लगता है कि इज़ इट द लिमिटिंग बिलीफ, और क्या हम प्रतिभा को बढ़ा सकते हैं, कैन वी स्केल अप आवर टैलेंट, कि कुछ ओरिजिनल ही होता है, ओरिजिनल ही चाहिए आपको, और अगर हाँ तो क्या कर सकते हैं उसके लिए. थैंक यू सो मच.
Well, you know, we are so steeped in what our culture tells us, what our parents tells us. From the moment we are born, there's so much that goes into you that you finally don't even know what's your inner antaratma and what is culturally acceptable. And therefore, it's, you know, to cross these kind of boundaries between your culture, with your mythology, with your religious beliefs, with your, you know, the caste, the class, and all this stuff that goes on about love jihad. I mean, you know, you don't listen to the heart anymore because you're so caught up in what you think should be done through, you know, the kind of conditioning you've gone through. So we really start to take away the layers in people so that they can start understanding what is the cultural conditioning and what is the antaratma, what is that, and that inner voice is so important. And those who record their dreams, they have been liberated, I have to tell you. Because they work through the most amazing things even after their parents have died, and they've made peace with all kinds of things.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're at time. I would encourage you to this is the external voice telling you, please get Rashna's book outside. It's the first look that anyone is getting. She'll be signing some copies. Thank you so much.